How's it going, everybody? 112 days. 112 days. That's all it took for the NHL offseason to come and go for our Boston Bruins, who will start up tomorrow night as they visit the Dallas Stars in their season opener. Hard to believe that hockey's already here. Hockey's back. The NHL season starts tonight when the St. Louis Blues raise their banner against the Washington Capitals. And then what's becoming one of the best rivalries in the game, the Vegas Golden Knights and the San Jose Sharks, will play out on the West Coast and open their season. And of course, the big way the Vegas season ended last year was that big 5-minute major penalty in the elimination game in which the Sharks tied the game, took the lead. Golden Knights retied the game, and then the game went into overtime and the Sharks won. Incredible moment in the playoffs last year that really set the tone for the entire postseason of poor officiating. But we're here tonight to preview the Bruins in the NHL season. And I'm not going to lie, I'm still hurting, and I think a lot of us are. That was a loss that left a mark. That really left a mark. In terms of Boston sports, I think the only thing I can compare it to, obviously Super Bowl 42 is on a level of its own. The Patriots had a chance at perfection, and it just didn't pan out. And obviously nothing will ever come close to that. What I compare it a lot to for this Bruins loss was the 2010 NBA Finals. Losing to a team that you were better than and what felt like the last kick of the can. That felt like Pierce, Garnett, and Allen's last kick of the can. They were better than that Lakers team, and they lost it. The Bruins were better than that St. Louis team. St. Louis was better than anybody thought they were. It turns out that was a better team than we all thought they were. Going into that series, I heard people saying sweep or gentleman's sweep. That was never going to happen. But, the Bruins still should have won that series. And as you can tell, I'm not over it. I don't know when I will be. Even if they win this year, I might not be. That was just too big. But life goes on. There is a season to be played. Again, the Bruins do start tomorrow. Hard to believe. It's already back. This year, I have the Bruins finishing third in the Atlantic Division, behind the Lightning, but behind the Maple Leafs. Because, this Maple Leafs team is better built for the regular season than the Bruins are, in my opinion. The Maple Leafs will be healthier because they didn't play an extra 2 months they did last year. At some point this year, a lull is going to come. I don't know whether it's at the start. I don't know whether it's in the middle. But in 2012, at the year after the Bruins went to the Cup Final and won Game 7 in Vancouver, if you remember, they did not win back-to-back games for 2 months, from January to March, because they just hit a wall. And that's going to happen again this year. It's a question of when, and can you survive it? That didn't happen in 2014, because the 2013 season was the lockout-shortened season, so there was less wear and tear on them physically that year than there was in 2011. So this time around, I do think Toronto will have home ice come that first-round playoff series. I expect to see them again because I think this, as much as the Bruins are going to be on a mission, and they will be, this Bruins team looks like it's going to have a fire up its butt like you read about. Tampa should have a bigger one after the disgraceful way their season ended a year ago to put together one of the greatest regular seasons in hockey history and then get swept out in the first round by the wild card Columbus Blue Jackets, who half their players were checked out by that point, was really a shameful display that I don't think the Lightning will ever live down unless they win the Cup this year. That could destroy that entire team. The Lightning need to win the... I compare the Lightning a lot to the 2003 Red Sox. When your season ends like that, and there was a massive gaffe, or there was a massive choke, then one of two things happen next year. You either totally fall apart, and I mean totally fall apart, or you win the championship. The 03 Red Sox responded. A lot like the Maple Leafs when they blew that Game 7 here in Boston in 2013 when they blew the 3-goal third-period lead. For a few years there, that got ugly. That got really ugly. Now, granted, it's turned to work out for them because it's got them Mitch Marner and it got them Austin Matthews. So, I guess you could say it was a blessing in disguise, but that team fell off fast. So, that's what I'm expecting Tampa this year. Tampa will rebound. There's too much talent on that team, and we've been waiting too long for them to figure it out. This is their year. This is the year they figure it out. So I do believe the Tampa Bay Lightning right now are my pick to be the Stanley Cup champions. Because there's motivation, there's talent, and furthermore, they know if there's another underachievement, John Cooper's going to get fired. And they really respect him. They play hard for him. They don't want to lose their coach. I think that helped the Bruins in 2011. In 2011, the Bruins knew if there was anything short of a conference final, Claude Julien was out. Especially if they lost in the first round. He was out. And Peter Chiarelli was out too. And that really inspired them that year to do it for Claude. And obviously it propelled them all the way to the Stanley Cup. Overall in the NHL this year, I'm wondering if that Cup final set a precedent. Is physicality coming back into hockey Because for years now, it's felt like it was nothing but speed, skill, fast guys, pick the corner, other stuff like that. Fighting is completely out of the game. The Toronto Blue Jays had more fights last year than the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs as a team had 5. The Blue Jays had 6. Just think about that for a second. The Blue Jays, the baseball team, fought more than the hockey team. So that's where you go with that. But I'm wondering, have the Blues set a precedent that you can still win with physicality and wearing teams down? Because they wore the Bruins down. The further along that series went on, the Bruins were just worn out. The Blues, every chance they had to finish a check, they did. They were dirty. I'm not going to say they weren't dirty. Some of them were dirty, definitely. And a couple suspensions came out of it, as we saw. But as that set a new precedent in the NHL. So we focus mostly on the league to start. Now we'll get more deep into the Bruins. And I don't know realistically what you can expect from this team this year, because the greatest athletic achievement, short of the New England Patriots dynasty this century to me, was the Pittsburgh Penguins repeating as Stanley Cup champions in 2016 and 2017. Because when you go that deep, and the hockey, it's more emotional than it is physical, especially because it's such a mental wear and tear. It's an extra 2 months of war. When you go that deep, you typically don't go back. And above all else for the Bruins, the road will never clear for them the way it did. The road cleared for them last year. The phrase, the door is open, it was kicked off the hinges. The Blue Jackets took out the Lightning. The Islanders took out the Penguins. The Hurricanes took out the Capitals. You were through one round, and you were the team to beat. You had home ice throughout the rest of the playoffs. And that will never happen again. If it does, the odds of that happening again are slim to none. It was set up for the Bruins. And what hurts me more than anything else about that loss, well, there was something that I did enjoy the Blues have done, and I will get to that in a minute. What hurt me more than anything else about that loss was it felt like that was it. Zdeno Chara is 42. Is there a realistic chance that they're going to get him another cup before he walks away? And this man played through a broken jaw in the Cup final. And when he was introduced in Game 5, people who were there that night say they've never heard the Garden louder. The ovation he got was mind-blowing. And that's what his teammates did. That's how his teammates responded. If you listen to the mic'd up of the handshake line, I think the Blues were more inspired than the Bruins. So, again, that's just an example of how much that run takes out of you. I expect the Bruins to make the playoffs. They're too talented not to. I expect them to beat Toronto again, because they just have that team's number. They just do. When the going gets tough, the Bruins rise up and Toronto shrinks. Even though I do believe Game 7 this time around will be in Toronto, I think the Bruins still prevail in that first round series. But this time around, I'm fairly certain the Lightning are going to be there waiting for you in the second round. Pull the upset. If Tuukka can do what he did last year, and I don't mean crap his pants in Game 7. I mean, if he can return to that form he was in the playoffs, because that was, as long as Game 7 wasn't the bloodbath that it was, there was a chance Tuukka was going to win the Conn Smythe in defeat. He was that good. But the way he played in Game 7 ruined it. But there was a legitimate chance that he was going to win the Conn Smythe, even in defeat. He was phenomenal. And they need him again. They need Yaroslav Halak to play, I'd say, somewhere between 20 and 25 games, get Tuukka his rest, ideally keep him under 60 games played, therefore he's fresh and ready to go come the postseason. And if he can do what he did last year, the Bruins can win the Cup, because the talent is there. And it's another thing I want to get to tonight. Don Sweeney and the job he's done at GM. These McAvoy and Carlo extensions, another fold into what I think he's past Danny Ainge. I think Don Sweeney is the second best GM in Boston. Because great extensions, McAvoy, Carlo, Marchand, Pasternak, all well below market value. All well below market value. I think Sweeney's first year and a half was so bad, and it was bad. Don't get me wrong, it was bad. That it's left such a sour taste in people's mouth that they still don't fully trust him. But over the last 3 years, Don Sweeney has been as good as any executive in hockey. He has integrated a young core, McAvoy, Carlo, Pasternak, DeBrusk, and others, into his veteran core of Bergeron, Chara, Marchand, Krejci, and Rask. So he has done exactly what they wanted to do. When Peter Chiarelli was fired, their goal, they did not want to bottom out. They did not want to go to the bottom of the league. trade off they wanted to contend while bringing in a young core, which is a hard thing to do, but they've done it. They have a good young core here now between Pasternak, DeBrusk, Mark McAvoy, Carlo, maybe Earl Vakanainen, Jack Stednicka, their top prospect, who we should see in the NHL by the end of the year. Sweeney's done the job. But now these guys are coming up at the end. This veteran core, I think, realistically has 2 years left. Because McAvoy and Carlo's deals will allow them to give Chara another 1-year deal, if they so choose, and if he wants it. I thought there was a chance that this year was it, but because of McAvoy and Carlo's deals, there will be. I think Chara can last 1 more year. So that's a big one. So my overall expectation from the Bruins this year is the 3rd seed in the Atlantic, beating the Maple Leafs in the first round, but falling to the Lightning in the second round. Because, like I said, teams in hockey just don't go back. In fact, most teams that go to the Cup final lose in the first round. So, and again, the road's not going to break for them the way it did. Awards this year, Braden Holtby will take home the Selke, in my opinion. I mean, excuse me, idiot. Braden Holtby will take home the Vezina, in my opinion. The Hart Trophy will go to Nathan McKinnon of the Avalanche. Coach of the Year will go to Trichet in Arizona, because I think they're going to be a surprise team this year. I think the Coyotes have a chance to be really good. Norris will go to Brett Burns. Rookie of the Year will go to Jack Hughes. And Selke will go to Bergeron. And the Rocket Richard Trophy to Alexander Ovechkin. And the Art Ross Trophy to Nikita Kucherov. So those are my award predictions for you. At the end of this video here, which I'm wrapping up right now, I want to thank, again, Matt McCarthy of 98.5 The Sports Up for joining me last night to recap the Red Sox season. Hopefully Matt will be back on with us throughout the offseason when some moves are made. Feels like now the inevitable trade of Mookie Betts. The new GM is hired. When the Hall of Fame the Hall of Fame class is announced on and on. Tomorrow, I'll start getting into this week's football game. I want to do a more broad topic tomorrow about the Redskins more than I do the Patriots. I don't mean this Redskins team. I mean how the Redskins have fallen. And just how important they used to be and what they become now and how vital ownership is in sport more than anything else. So I'll get into that tomorrow. Thank you for joining me tonight for my Bruins season preview. Hockey's back. Let's go, Bruins. Woo!